Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Stephanie Domerat. Now this week, members of the Oregon Senate pushed back a key vote on a transportation funding package until the end of the month. With funding to support Oregon's transportation services still up in the air, we sit down with the lone Democratic voice in the state House, breaking party lines.
I was really honest up front that this is where my vote was going to land.
We'll hear from her on why she voted against the proposed funding package and what's next for her. But first, the Port of Vancouver is coming off of one of its best financial years on record. Established more than 100 years ago, the Port of Vancouver serves as a key trade gateway linking Asia and South America to the U.S. and Canada. It's also home to more than 50 businesses. In 2024, they reported more than $55 million in revenue. And with several projects underway, the port is looking optimistic about the future.
You know, even today with a lot of work still to be done, we just see it as a vibrant area that people are continuing to come down here, are excited to see the changes happen.
Now, the port is governed by a board of 3 commissioners elected to a 6-year term. They're tasked with making decisions and setting policy for the port, shaping its role in our community. And looking to be a part of those decisions in the future is Temple Lentz. Lentz is a former Clark County councilor who is the sole candidate running to join the port's board of commissioners this November. She also currently serves as president and CEO of Vancouver's Historic Trust, which works to preserve the city's history and educate the public. In addition to holding those positions, Lentz has a seat on Washington's Freight Mobility Strategy Investment Board. Temple, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. So you're running to replace retiring Commissioner Jack Berman in District 3.
Yes.
Why are you pursuing this role?
Well, I think that our port is an incredible resource for the Vancouver community and really for the Pacific Northwest as a whole. And our region in Southwest Washington is so closely tied to the fact that freight, Washington State is one of the most freight-driven states in the country. And Vancouver has the 3rd largest port in the state. And as you said, it's also one of the oldest. So because of the experience that I've had in elected office and in some of my appointed positions, I felt like I was actually incredibly qualified to run for this position, and I'm really excited about the future of the port.
You're actually, someone came up to you and actually proposed for you to run, right?
Yes. So when Commissioner Berkman decided that he was going to retire, he wanted to find a suitable replacement, and I'm incredibly flattered and honored that he actually thought that I would be one.
Yeah.
Jack has served our community so well for, if you put it all together, decades. And following in his footsteps, those are big shoes to fill. But I think I can do it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I think there are a lot of people maybe in the community who don't really understand everything that goes on in the ports and all of the work that happens behind the scenes to get things into our state, into our region, into our country, right? And all the work that's happening. So I want to ask first, how important is the Port of Vancouver for the economy in Washington?
Well, it's incredibly important. Like I said, we're a really freight-driven state. And so for the Port of Vancouver, we're primarily at this time an export port. So all of these goods and services that are created either in the state of Washington or that pass through the state of Washington find their markets across the ocean. And so us being able to be a part of sending those out so that our state's residents and producers, and then also, like I said, across the country, can get the revenue they need. In addition, the port is an employer. So we have, the port itself is an employer, and then we also have 50+ business tenants, and all of those are employers as well. And these are family wage jobs. So the port is able to help create jobs, create economic impact for our state, and also bring in tax revenue.
Yeah, big for Clark County too, right?
Incredibly.
I want to ask, what are some of the major goods that specifically that come through the Port of Vancouver?
Sure. Well, we are one of the biggest grain exporters. United Grain, that is housed at the Port of Vancouver, is one of the nation's biggest grain exporters. I believe we have about 10 to 11% of the grain that goes out of the country as a whole. We also have metals. We bring in cars. We're also one of the biggest importers of Subarus.
Yes.
So when they've just come in, it's actually really exciting. You can see on the lot when they've driven them all off the ships, just a sea of Subarus in the lot before they leave.
People love their Subarus.
They really
the Pacific
here,
Northwest.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's cool. I didn't know that until preparing for this interview.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. But also, you chair also the Washington Freight Mobility Strategy Investment Board, which we mentioned. What are you seeing right now when it comes to trade in general in Washington and maybe even beyond?
You know, it's not great. With the tariff situation that we have, with the uncertainty coming from the federal level, and then also a lot of local governments are finding themselves strapped as well, regardless of the federal situation. So put all of these together, and there's just a lot of uncertainty. And what I have found in talking to folks, whether it's folks at ports or people who deal with freight management across the state, is it's really the uncertainty that's the problem. Prices can go up, you can get additional taxes, but once you know that what they're going to be, you can plan. When you don't know what things are going to be from one day, week, month to the next, it's really hard for these businesses to plan.
What exactly is happening then in that regard? Like how are they accounting for that uncertainty?
Doing the best they can, and really that's what I find for local businesses, for businesses at the port, for all these folks that I talk to. They make the best plans they can, and they try to keep going. But what it does impact then is if folks are going to be looking at wanting to invest, to bring a business to the port, to bring one of their goods through the port, they may not anymore be looking at the US. They may not be looking at the West Coast. It depends on what it is, but that has impact on all of us. And if you're looking at needing to make an investment where it's going to be millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, and over a period of years, you may just decide not to make that investment and to hold and see what's going on.
Have you seen any direct changes, whether more imports in certain ways or more exports? Have you seen any direct impacts in the last few months specifically?
You know, since I'm not in the position yet at the port, it's a little hard for me to say specifically, but from the Freight Mobility Board and talking to folks who are related to that, we're just now starting to see some impacts from decisions that were made a while ago. I mean, there is a long tail on these. Again, doing something like moving goods across the country, the state, and then the ocean takes time. And building up the businesses takes time. So we're just now starting to see some of that tightening and folks having a little bit fewer resources to work with and looking around the corner and not really sure what they're going to find.
It's interesting when you say it makes sense. It takes a while to see the impacts of these things. You know, how long would you say it would take, you know, to kind of play out in this trade situation and the system? You know,
it could be months. A lot of it depends really on what the good is, what the business is. But like we're starting to see locally, prices going up because of tariffs that were implemented a few months ago. And a lot of that was because the sellers had stocked up prior to the tariffs. Yeah. And now they're draining those resources, so they're having to raise prices now. That's sort of the, 1 to 6 months.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
At that level of supply and demand, right? It takes a while to move things. What are some things that people may not be aware of that are happening at the port right now?
Well, one of the things that I am really excited about with the port is the fact that I get to talk about how economic development and environmental stewardship can go hand in hand. At a glance, you might not think that. You might think, well, that's business and that's environment, and those are very separate. But the port has an incredibly robust environmental stewardship program. So whether it's remediation for sites that need to be cleaned up and returned to a better position, or actually the port has, I believe it's about 100 acres. It's about 1,600 acres of land that the port has overall, and about 100 of those acres are wetland. And so they're mitigating those wetlands and working on increasing the benefits of bird habitat, of cleaning the water, cleaning the air. And that's really important to the port. Additionally, there's a lot of effort on electrification. So the port right now is getting authority to buy through some grants electric cranes. And so with the work that's happening at the harbor, electric powered cranes, and then implementing things like shore power, which there are vessels that come into the port that need to remain running. And a lot of these are diesel. And so if they had to remain running, that would be a lot of emissions, a lot of fuel waste. So by giving them shore power where they can plug in while they're there, it removes a lot of that nasty diesel stuff.
Yeah, especially right, on the water and in these really vulnerable and important areas.
Exactly.
What do you see as a priority going forward for the Port of Vancouver?
Well, continuing to plan to navigate this really uncertain situation. We're incredibly fortunate that the staff leadership at the Port of Vancouver is super strong, and they've made a really concerted effort over the years to get to this point to diversify the types of businesses and the countries that we work with. So if there's one specific place where there's a problem, these other areas can fill that up. So continuing to support the work there, and it's going to get trickier as we go. But also the port is working on some developments at Terminal 1, which most folks would know as the base of the Vancouver side of the I-5 bridge. That's where the Port of Vancouver originally was located in 1912, and then eventually moved around the corner where there's opportunity for more deep water work. But we are currently working on development plans at Terminal 1, and one of the key pieces of that is a public market. So similar to Pike Place or Pybus in Wenatchee, or there's a really cool one in Milwaukee, actually, Wisconsin. Those plans are in development right now, and they're doing work on the dock at this time. But I'm really excited about being able to be a part of that planning and work to bring that to reality.
Yeah, a lot of growth happening in Clark County, so exciting to hear
much
more about that. But Temple Lentz, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time. Coming up here on Straight Talk, when we come back, we'll hear from Oregon State Representative Anessa Hartman on her decision to vote against her party's proposed transportation funding package and what's next for her. Stay with us.